Yo, let's go.
Everything. Come on, come on. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever will believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Yo, turn my mic up. Y'all ain't see this coming.
Yo, yo,
Get
yo.
ready to catch this. Come to
Good morning, y'all.
God is the goal, and then there's the period. This thing is real. Woo-cha,
Woo-cha, we serious.
The original. God is in control. Do it for your soul. Gotta let the whole world know. Ayo, ayo.
Good morning, good morning. Yo, good morning, good morning, good morning. Put it in the comments. Tell somebody around here. We just like to say it out loud. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Encourage somebody. You have no idea what somebody might be going through today. They looking at it and we celebrating because it's Friday. But they may be like, Lord, I got something coming up this weekend I don't want to see. So just encourage somebody. It's Friday. Just got paid. Friday night. Party's bumping. Everything's all right. Y'all remember that song? Yo, tell somebody everything's gonna be okay. It's even if you didn't get paid, even if the party ain't jumping, everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be okay. I am on location today. I'm out of town. Not really out of town. Um, but I'm not in my normal studio today. We out hanging out. Everything. So that's why the background looks all crazy, and I'm not the most. I'm not the most appeasing, but the Lord is still good. The Lord is still good. Everything's gonna be okay. Listen, we got a special guest today. I love doing this. I love being able to have friends on and we just chop it up and hang out together. And this is so good. My friend just released a new book, and we've been wanting to talk about it. So I can't wait to get into it with her. But I want to get y'all in the room. Y'all come on in. She is just one of the just I love not just her. She's a phenomenal speaker. So let's just get that out of the way. Phenomenal speaker. She's a great writer. But her passions, I just learn from her. And she honestly, at events, puts me in a corner and just sets me straight. Basically, I just take it. I just be like, girl, tell me what's going on, and she just gives me the real. So God has just used her to be ambassador and a voice for voices that are often too low. She worked for years with the Salvation Army, traveled around the world. I've stole many illustrations from her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the one, the only Danielle Strickland, my girl. I can't hear you, Danielle. Oh, there you go. There you go. What you say now?
Ev-
Say it again.
Everything's going to be okay. I'm in on
We
that.
believe it.
Yeah,
We believe it. We believe it. How about that intro? That was a pretty nice intro,
that was a pretty nice intro. Good job.
huh?
That's pretty
Like,
good for early morning. I'm telling you, it's good.
yeah,
Good.
it's way better than carrying Newhall for somebody. I like to bring it. I like to do my thing. Anyway, Danielle, seriously, I think we get in back corners of events and stuff, and your perspective is always just so enlightening. And you're from Canada, so your perspective, even on the American church and all of that, and the warnings and the things that we need to be paying attention to, your insight is just always so invaluable. I really appreciate your voice.
Thanks. I always look forward. If I see you on the same bill as me, I'm always like, oh, good. This will be fun.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
We gonna get some tea. We gonna get some tea together.
that's right.
Yo, so tell me about what's the name of the new book?
The name of the new book is The Other Side of Hope. And the
Mm.
tagline is flipping the script on cynicism and despair and rediscovering our humanity.
Wow. All right. Now,
Mhm.
where did the inspiration, where did this come from? Usually, I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, so my best creation comes out of me being angry about something. So I get angry about something,
That's
and
great.
then I create something. What happened with you to where you got this vision for this book?
You know what? The actual book itself is a flip book. You flip it over. I don't know if you have a physical copy yet, but on one side is kind
No,
of
but
this
I remember
big,
we saw it. You
yeah.
showed me. You can literally flip it over and read it from both sides.
Uh-huh. You can decide where you start. I think for me, I didn't really realize how deep this temptation towards cynicism and despair as like a lifestyle was going to get when I started writing this book. But I had already sniffed it in my own life. Just
Mm.
this tendency towards it. It feels like we're saturated in a culture of fear, and what fear does is produce cynicism and despair. It's just kind of where the road goes. So partly I was just like, you know, how am I hopeful? How am I hopeful in the season? How does hope work? What is hope like? So my own exploration kind of that's usually how I do things is I get curious and then my own exploration, I go, here, guys, like one beggar telling another beggar where to find some bread. Like, here's where I
Mm.
discovered how hope works and how I've somehow been able to hang on and discover hope in this season.
Mm, what's something that you discovered about hope that you didn't that's new or fresh for you? Because I mean, you know hope. You've been in ministry for years, so you know the deal. How is hope made new for you, and what did you discover that was fresh about it?
Yeah, I think a bunch of things. One big thing is that I think we get trapped or sucked into this idea that hope is happy, and we confuse hope with
Mm,
optimism. But what I've discovered, which I think has been so liberating to me, is that hope is honest. So the more authentic you are, the more real you get, the more unafraid you are to get honest about who you are and what's happening, the more hope there is.
okay, we gotta dig into that a little bit. So hope is not
Happy.
optimism, and or happy, but hope is equated with honest. So dig in there a little bit more. Help me see it.
Well, I think one of the problems is that we've been bought, I don't know if it's Disney's fault or Hallmark's fault or just like marketing Christianity's fault, but we've like painted this idea of hope as these like positive outlooks or positive ideas or these pithy statements that we like put on our fridge and just go like, if we say these over and over and over again, they might be true. And what happens is that because we believe that hope is happy, I think the polar opposite of that we've also believed is that sorrow is despairing.
Mm.
And what that does is it traps us in this kind of circumstantial shallow living where we're presenting a hopeful life, but it keeps us away from the genuine sorrow that's required when we get honest. So this is like Jesus's invitation to the way of the kingdom. He leads with this. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. I mean, that's his lead. That's how you get in. That's the door in. Is this like genuine sorrow? This like, I can't. Like, this is, I call it the I can't door. Like, this is too hard for me. This doesn't
Mm.
line up for me. There's tension here. There's all this, like, I've got drop of my ego here. There's this, and that's honest. And that's honest. And honesty will get you into those deeper, sorrowful places. But this is what I would call not a despairing sorrow, but a godly sorrow. And in that place is where we discover God at work. And when you
Mm.
discover that God is at work in the place that you've been most afraid of, the place that you've been avoiding your whole life, the place that you've maybe even taught is not where God is at work, when you discover God at work in that place, that is an unrelenting hope.
Mm. Wow. I get it. So, in the midst of brokenness, in the midst of hardship, not trying to avoid, but literally going there, being honest about the fact that you are there, how you got there, and inviting God to be there. And when you see God in that kind of place, it offers an undeniable hope.
Yes. And it's not so much that we're inviting God to be there, God is already there.
Already there. Yeah, yeah,
It's that
yeah.
we are opening ourselves to find God there.
Inviting ourselves to see God there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
this opening. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you feel like in seasons of grief, you feel like you are there and God is outside of that. So it's like, no, he can go there with you. He's already there with you. You just got to open up to see him. That's already there. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is
Wow.
true. Internally, it's true, but also externally, it's true. So I've been in a season of like, a very difficult season, challenging injustice and oppression and abuse within church structures. And at the same time, I've never been more hopeful about the future of the church.
Hmm. Now,
Now, why? Why? Like, how is that even? I've been asking myself, like, how is this even possible? And here's another thing: hope is not a principle I'm living with; it's a person leading me.
that is so good.
And this
Say
is
that
the other
again
thing.
for the.
Well, yeah,
Oh my God.
hope is not a principle that I'm like stacking in my life that I've got that's like stagnant, like a principle that I'm keeping alive in my life. Hope is living, active. Hope is elemental. It's eternally elemental. It's the three things that will remain according to the scriptures are faith, hope, and love. That's why hope is so potent, because it's present tense all the time. In other words, I can't even put my hope in something that's been, because hope is eternally present. It's now, it's here. Hope is a person.
Mm,
Hope is a presence of
mm.
God. Hope is God showing up and us seeing God at work. That's hope.
Wow. So unpack why, how, and where are you seeing living hope in the church with all of the calamity and all of the devastation and oppression and abuse that you're experiencing and fighting against?
People are getting honest.
Hmm.
When people get honest, this is where hope is honest. When people get honest, that means they're not letting fear dictate their lives. When we stop letting fear dictate our lives and we start getting honest, that is where God is at work. Right? That's all the things. God
Mm,
is truth. God is light. God is hope. God is active. God is living. God's not afraid. God's not, I was talking to somebody the other day who was like, aren't you afraid of the reputation of the church? And I was like, well, no more afraid than God was. I mean, God was not afraid of the reputation of the church or the church's leaders, by the way, because he wrote forever in scripture all of their faults, exposed all of their sins, told about all of their failures in living record. That was God who did that, because God is
mm,
honest, because what we've put our hope in matters. So the more we understand that these structures or systems or whatever our structures and systems are in our life, maybe it's a coping mechanism that's unhealthy, maybe it's your own addiction, maybe it's a bad, terrible relationship, whatever this is, the most hopeful posture you can get to is to start getting honest about what is. And that is
mm,
when you start to see God show up. And when you start to see God show up, that's hope, because the future can change,
mm,
because you're not stuck, because you're not letting fear dictate your actions anymore. That's hope, when you realize, wait a minute, if God is at work in this space, it means he's leading me, and he's leading me towards love. And that's the most hopeful thing in the world. That's why David could say, like, where could I go and not find you? I can go up to the heights, so I don't have to be afraid to soar. I can go the farthest reaches of the globe, so I don't have to be afraid of context or circumstances. And I can go to the depths of to hell. My life could be a living hell. I could be in the bottom of my clinical depression, and even there, I'll find you. And when you find
mm.
and he's at work, he's leading you. And that's why I'm hopeful right now, because God is at work. People are not being led by fear, they're being led by truth. That truth is setting us free. God is raising up voices right now to expose. He's bringing light, he's bringing hope for the future of the church. It's going to look different, but it's glorious because it's going to look more like him.
Mm. How do we navigate the fallout, the disappointment, um, with people, missed expectations? So, with a piece of honesty, there is like there's a reason why people are afraid, and there's a reason why people don't want to tell the truth about it all. When you start to get honest and hope starts to show up, there is this there is this space in between though where it gets a little ugly.
Hmm. Well, yes,
And
and this is
and 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 Danielle, so like the relationship. So you're navigating and you've navigated. Uh, I'll try to give a Cliff Notes version, but really standing up for women who've been taken advantage of by Christian leaders in the church, and you've kind of I've seen you stand up in spaces and use your voice in helping to empower their voices. With that, on a personal note, though, your relationships, people that see you raising things that they would love to minimize or not raise, or having a different opinion about how that's navigated. How are you navigating the relational carnage that comes with that? That I assume comes with that. You may say, actually, it's not, Albert. My relationships are great, but what that's a real thing. Tell me about that.
yeah. I mean, you mean after I read your book or before? I try to let love lead. I try to let love lead, Albert. Um, I think that is
That's
right.
funny.
The thing is I think there's a difference between right relationship and the form, the pretense of relationship. Um,
Mm,
I think this is an important part of the conversation because I think a lot of times the pretense of relationship is what keeps us trapped. Um, but the authentic relationships can actually endure the truth, like and want it for the sake of
mm,
relationship. So I do think in some ways, and sometimes when relationships are toxic or not true, they're not authentic. And again, this like comes back to this like hope is honest. So if I want to have a hope of a future relationship, it needs to be honest, or else it's a pretense of one.
mm.
Now, I think
Wow.
the honesty can be done in love. I don't think truth has to be brutal. I think truth can be loving, but it's still truth.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
not like, so for example, like you talk a fair bit of race about race in your book. Like I can have an authentic, honest relationship with a person from a different culture than me, or I can have a token pretended one. And that token pretense of one and keeping that pretense of one might make me performative, right? I might be doing things, but not out of authentic relationship, just out of this pretense of wanting to look like. And I think the same is true when it comes to church relationships and church institutions and stuff, is what people actually want is the pretense of an actual reconciled relationship and not the real reconciled relationship. The real reconciled relationship, the one that's worth fighting for, the one that's worth crying about, the one that's worth working towards, is one that's rooted in honesty and openness.
Mm. Wow.
So
Wow.
where there
That's
is a
so good.
breach, where there is a breach, and this is true if you're in a toxic relationship, that this is really good for you if you're like, but I want this appearance of a marriage, a good marriage. And so I'm just going to like put up with all these toxicities and never really confront anything or be honest about anything, but we're going to appear to have a really good relationship. That's not hope, for the record. That's not hopeful living, because it's not honest. Now, do I think it's worth putting in the work and the time and the effort and the counseling to get that relationship to be as authentic as it possibly can? Absolutely, it's worth it. And what I think is that work, truth, there might be some confrontation involved. There definitely will be some honesty involved. That work will leave you the most hopeful about a reconciled relationship.
Mm. Wow. I've been talking and thinking about hope my whole life. I was today years old when I discovered what hope is.
Wow.
We all need to get this book. I've never really heard it put this way, especially detangling the emotion out of hope, that hope is happy, And hope is optimistic. Hope is really honest. And it is in that place where the living hope of Jesus Christ shows up and then illuminates our pathway forward and leads us. That is so good. And it gives hope more authority and more power, um, because hope isn't about a feeling. Hope is about a
Mhm.
person. That's so good.
Yeah.
People in the comments are just going crazy. Oh my goodness. This is so good. What would you say? In the American church, from your seat, in our desire and pursuit to have hope, um, what are the things we need to be paying attention to, or be warn? If you could write us a letter, what's some of the highlight? What would you say about the American church?
In 5 minutes or less. Um,
I know,
Listen,
right?
there's so much to be thankful for, so much good going on in the world, so many really beautiful Jesus followers doing beautiful things with their lives and sacrificing themselves, laying down their lives. What I would say is that sometimes our strengths become our greatest weaknesses. This is true of everybody's life,
Mm,
including the American church. So I think some of your strengths have been kind of this like presentation. uh, you're good at that. You're good at big, large, Americans are really good at this kind of performative. That doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, by the way. You're good at marketing. You're good at getting the word out. You're good at like all of these things. Those things actually end up being your greatest weakness at the same time. So what happens is in the attempt to go big and to market and to promote and to like get the good news out, there can be an overlooking of the lived out gospel. There can be an overlooking of that, like real, authentic, honest, what the church is supposed to look like in its local context. And I think when you sacrifice that local, lived out, authentic gospel, you've lost everything. And
mm,
I feel like the bigger the performative value, the more you've lost in a way.
mm,
So I
mm,
would always just urge American church to just pull back on the performative aspect, on the like marketing promotional aspect of the gospel, and try to lean in to a lived out authentic local expression of
mm,
Jesus in your own context and in your life. I would say this
mm.
is the same with leaders, by the way, in my life too. This draw, one of the chapters in my book is called The Hercules Myth, which is this like, draw to this ever ascending life. So deeply
Mm,
embedded with the American dream, right? You've attached the gospel to the American dream, and you have this gospel of ascension. But then we have the savior of descension. And so there comes a point, Hercules is going up, Jesus is coming down. There comes a point in every leader's life, especially if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, where you have to go, which direction am I going?
mm,
And I had a moment, I share in the book a moment where Jesus said to me, you can be Hercules or you could be Jesus, but you can't be both.
mm,
And that's where I really, really started paying attention to the way Jesus lived, the way Jesus walked, what Jesus invested in, what Jesus considered to be the best work. All of it local, all of it connected, all of it authentic, all of it in the real. Um, anyway, there might be some help there.
wow. That's so good. That's so good. Wow. The ascending life and the descending life.
The
And
other
you can
thing
be
I would
Hercules.
say, yeah, or you could be Jesus, but you can't be both. And then what I would also say is, years and years ago, the Western church, I don't really separate the American church from the Canadian church because I feel like we have similar problems. The Canadians are just more sorry about it. But I had this picture of the church like a stick man, and it had this really big head. And every time the
Mm,
stick man would try to move, it would fall on its head. And that's always been a prayer that stuck with me for the church. The Western church needs to right size its body with its head.
Mm.
So it has knowledged out faith, and faith is not knowledge. Faith is lived out practice in the ways of Jesus. So one of my other prayers for the church is that it would practice the ways of Jesus, not just think about them and learn about them.
That's so good. That's so good. Y'all, I could sit and listen to Danielle all day. My soul just, I want to go confess sin to somebody. I want to go tell somebody the truth. I want to go practice my faith. Like you just make me want to live like Jesus. And I really appreciate your words, your heart, and your challenge. It's so, I don't think you mean to be convicting. I know that it's your person, but you are so freaking convicting. I can't talk to you too often. It's like, geez, oh my goodness. But yo, hey, buy the book. Go to Amazon. Go to your bookstore. Go get it. There it is, right there. The Other Side of Hope, and then flip it, Devon. Flip it. It's so cool. You can start on
Yeah.
the back. You can start on the back of the front. It's pretty cool. So my dyslexia is kind of confusing actually, but
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. But hey, The Other Side of Hope. Yo, get this book. Let's push the book sales today because I think it translates into inspiration and hope and change in your life. So please, please, please get the book. Buy it for your friend. Buy it for your family. Danielle, thank you so much. Any final words before we roll out?
You know, my final words are a prayer from Romans 15 for this morning, for those of you tuning in, and really, entering into this weekend with the desire to be hopeful. And it's just, may the God of hope fill you with joy and peace as you trust in him, so you could overflow with hope by the power of his Spirit.
Wow. Come on,
Amen.
y'all. Danielle Strickland, I love you, sis. If you
You
ever
too,
need
Albert.
anything, I'm there for you, praying for you, and God bless you.
You got it. Bless you
Peace.
too.
Wait, don't hang up though. I'm gonna end the live, and then for another two
Gotcha.
minutes, we gonna gossip a little bit about some other stuff.
About
So,
hopeful things, don't
gossip.
worry.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, about
It's
hopeful
going to be
things.
okay, people. It's going to be okay.
Everything's gonna be okay. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend.